Yeah, how you going?
Hey, what's happening?
No, my just is just a shit day in Sydney.
Oh, it is an absolutely miserable day.
Actually, when I think about it, like we complain about Sydney over like it's too fucking hot, it's too cold, it's too wet.
There's like just like a sweet spot that we like,
It's like, but it only happens like one
but
month of the year.
yeah, it's about a week of the year. But we like it so much that it's enough for us to complain about every single other kind of weather.
Oh my god, isn't it ever?
But this is particularly miserable.
Yeah,
Like it's icy.
it's
The wind is the shittest weather.
it is.
Yeah, like it's raining. I can deal with the rain, but it's
not a winter
really
person,
windy.
though, myself.
Yeah. So in short, fuck today.
So was it not this Saturday, obviously, because we're recording, but like, but next week from that one, we have Siam2Sydney coming up. Is I'm not. Yeah, it's actually mic a bit there, mate. So you can
Mike's
hear you.
I'm back.
There we go. It's like I'll be cornering Dion Beatty on his return to the ring.
Yeah,
so you're going to be commentary.
Yes.
You reckon you'll be doing solo again?
I reckon how I have found works is like I do the commentary and I just like bring in guests as the day rolls on.
Nice.
Like I find that's a fun way to do it.
Oh yeah, it's pretty interactive that way, isn't it?
It depends, right? Because it's like they're slightly different. Like when we were at Siam sessions, that was like very informal. I feel like that's the vibe of the show. So I would just pull random people in and have a chat and stuff like that. This is like an entirely professional card, so we probably got to keep it a little bit more.
Keep it professional.
But I'm playing with how I commentate differently for different shows. Okay. I feel like you got to you got to work to the vibe of the show.
You got to try different things. Yeah, fair enough. Speaking about the show itself, so we have a guest on. She's going to be one of the main events for the show. So she trains out of Canberra Moyu. She's I was reading a profile here, Muay Thai New South Wales. She's won a couple gold medals in Thailand. She's an exercise physiologist.
Yeah.
And she is Diandra Martin.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys? You going well?
We're pretty good. We're always good, really.
We pitch a lot, but we're good.
Yeah, we like to complain, but we're always good.
All right, so
that's okay.
Yeah, when we get someone first on the show, always let's learn about your background a little bit. So how did you get into Muay Thai, or how did you start, like whatever martial arts? So yeah, let's know how you begun.
Yeah, so I started probably about 6-ish years ago. So I started at a just an old gym called Dark Carnival. Went in for just fitness and just self-defense. And started to grow and enjoy the sport. Realized I got it better than what I expected, and I was like, oh, I'll just trial it, see how I go. Jumped in for my first fight, which was meant to be kickboxing, turned into boxing. Ended up stopping my opponent in the second round. And then I was like, oh, I'll just keep going and see how I go. And then kind of developed, and I think my knowledge for Muay Thai started to develop. And that's where I started looking for gyms that would be able to take me to where I want to be, and that's where I went and found Moyu. So that's a little bit of how I started. So yeah.
Yeah, it's like I think it's always interesting when we talk to people from Canberra, which is basically just the one gym at the moment. But like it's
always the one person.
I know. Kieran. And Josh.
Yeah, Josh.
And now David Pennebeck. But
David. Actually, we talked to everyone.
Like I always found it interesting, especially for people in Canberra, because there's no real hometown shows there, or like no consistent ones. So like when you were coming up and fighting from there, how did you find getting experience with fights? Was it always hard, or did you just go, well, every couple of weeks I'm going to have to make a long road trip?
It was really hard. So some of the gyms in Canberra, they like fighting locally, and I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. It's just you're not going to get noticed in Canberra. Canberra's so small. So finding a gym that was able to take me to Brisbane and overseas and to Sydney and Melbourne and things like that was really important for me, because I wanted to get known. I wanted to kind of show people what I could do, and I don't think I could do that in just Canberra shows. Yeah. It wasn't.
Yeah, and I think that's fair enough.
Yeah,
you gotta get that experience done. Like Canberra people just it's like probably like just the actual travel themselves. Like just instills like a harder mindset, because you have to go outside your comfort level if you're gonna make it big. Like Ashley White, you gotta step up and take the fights.
How many times have you actually fought in Canberra?
I fought 3 times in Canberra.
Like a couple?
Yeah, only 3.
Yeah, not a lot, like relatively.
Not a lot.
Yeah.
I think once I fought 3 times, and then after that it was more Sydney, and then Melbourne, and then in Thailand, and then Brisbane and stuff like that too.
So you've always got like a fair bit of experience now. Like, I guess always an interesting question to ask is like, this is sort of your first one back after kind of the break. Everyone's kind of piecing back gradually, getting back in the swing of it. So what has the process been like in coming up? I'm always interested to hear how you found kind of coming back from that layoff with lockdowns and whatnot. What's been the experience like of kind of, getting back in the swing of things?
It hasn't been too hard, I think, because I only just graduated last year. It was a lot of uni for me. But I was training most of the time, constantly training. It wasn't like I had a layoff period. I just wasn't training as hard as I usually would, but I would train at least 5 to 6 times a day. Oh, sorry, not a day, a week. But yeah, like, that's a bit too much, just constant. But it wasn't too hard getting back into the swing of things. It was just more like outside of training, finding time to do my strength and conditioning, things like that. That on top of work was where I had to juggle things.
Yeah. And I guess, has it sort of lightened your load a bit now that you're getting back into fighting, having sort of uni done and dusted, or what has that switched things up?
It is. It's definitely a massive load taken off my shoulders, because with uni, like, you've got 4 units, you've got placement, you've got practicals, you've got all of these exams and things, and they're like exams that you have to pass the unit. So that stress is taken off, but I really enjoy that now. I can be with clients and, actually problem solve there and then without having to think, should I be asking my supervisor if this is correct and things like that. So I'm a big girl now.
So, like, for people that might have not seen you fight, but they will see you soon from there, especially like, you're fighting a really great opponent, Yolanda Schmidt. This fight is going to be awesome. Like, really looking forward to it. How would you describe, like, say, your style of fighting, or how do you approach your fighting?
To be honest, I get very serious. A lot of people have spoken about my resting bitch face, especially in the corner. I'm a lovely person, but when it comes to fighting, I've got a completely different mindset. It's just I go in and I want to show what I can do. And if that means stopping someone, it's stopping someone. And even like after, I feel bad that I've hurt them, but I'll give them a hug and make sure they're okay, things like that. But when I'm in the ring, it's completely different. But yeah, it's pretty, I guess my mindset leading up to the fight changes. I don't joke around at training as much. I'm more focused. I'm more serious. Everything is like 100%, drilling myself into the ground, and just not leaving any stones unturned, mainly.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but I have heard you described as scary before by people who have only seen you fight.
Yeah.
Like, when we were going to to train with you guys, some of the guys from the gym, I was like, she's pretty fierce, eh? She's pretty scary. Wait till you talk to her when you get there. She's lovely.
Yeah.
Like, even though, like, I'd seen you fight before, I kind of got to know you, and I was like, oh yeah, she's pretty serious. And then you go to the gym, it's like, take care of everyone.
Yeah. I'm basically the gym mum. I'm the person that tells you to put a jumper on or something like that. I'm there taping if I need to. But then when it comes to like sparring, I'm very serious, and they're just like, oh, I can't joke. But it's just like when you go into work, you have to be serious. And I kind of take this
100%.
as like work. You have to be serious. You have to be, you know what you want to do, and then you go and do it. And like, I feel like I'm quite broad with my style, because I can be, a counter fighter, I can be an aggressor, and that puts people on the edge because they don't know what they're going to experience. They don't know if I'm going to be waiting for them to come to me or if I'm just going to aggress them and bully them. So I think I think that's what I'm lucky about is because you don't know what kind of Diandra is going to step into the ring.
Absolutely. And on that is a good segue into a question I did have, because I've seen most of your fights, or I've seen all of your fights over the last sort of few years. And I have seen you, as you say, fight very differently, fight by fight. I think I've seen your style change a lot as you go. So I guess describe, I suppose, how you feel your style's changed over the years. Like, did you start off fighting like you mentioned that you kind of have a few different ways you can approach it, and you're happy to go about fights different ways based on opponent. But I guess, describe kind of how your style's developed and what the major changes have been over the years.
It's mainly probably just technique, finding things more efficient, knowing where your feet are when you throw things. Going from different gyms, I was able to take, like going from my first gym, they were just go, go, go. So that's where I got my aggression from. Going to some other gyms, it was more laid back. So that's where I got my counter fighter from, and I kind of mixed those two together. Being at Moyu, very technical. And it's good because if you've got the correct technique, you don't have to force things, meaning that you don't have to use as much energy. And I think a lot of people think, if I'm throwing a kick, I have to throw it with 100%. But if you're using your hip, if you're stepping correctly, if you've got the correct movement, then that kick can be just as efficient with a crappy technique and hard power sort of thing. So technique I find is something that's going to help you go through the entire fight. Yes, you have to have the heart. Yes, you have to have the drive and the, keep going. But, if you're on the edge and you're going and going and going, you just need that technique to keep pushing you as well. And that also helps with injuries, knowing that, what you're doing is correct and you're not going to injure yourself with a kick, like tear your ACL or something like that.
Yeah, sounds like you approach kind of your stylistic development pretty intelligently, right?
Yeah.
So on that, what about kind of, do you point to any fighters in particular, any fighters or any sort of stylistic influences, people that you find have kind of, in people that you've looked to kind of try to imitate? Are you someone who has people like that?
I really like Janet Todd. I love her aggression and how fast she is. I love Jackie Batten. I love her style. She's quiet. She's a counter fighter. She's laid back, but she also has that explosive movement as well. So she's very unpredictable, and you could see that when she fought. Was it Wonder Girl?
Wonder Girl, yeah.
Yeah, and how she caught her with an overhand, and it was just beautifully placed, and it was just so fast. It just happened in a split second, sort of thing. Those two, I like their styles because they're very similar, but they're very different.
Yeah.
And so those would probably be the two people that I look at, and I try to mimic their sort of styles.
Brian Pope John knows what he's doing over there in America.
Yeah. Definitely does.
Yeah.
So like going on the learning experience yourself, do you look back at some fights you had that were kind of pivotal changes that you go after that? If I go, oh look, I think I need to work on things like this, or like I really implemented this pretty well. Like one I was actually there for was you versus Tiff Lamb.
Yep.
That's awesome fight. It ended up being a draw.
Yeah.
It's like another kind of go, man, fair enough. It's like it's one of those ones I could argue it either way, but But do you think of fights like that or any other pivotal moment fights where you kind of go, all right, this is a fight where now I think this is where I got to step up the level a bit? Yeah,
so definitely after Tiff, I felt like I needed to step up my level and like build up a bit more. But I think every fight I come out and I'm like, oh, I did this really well, but now I want to focus on this. So I was really good at my round kicks, and now maybe I want to focus on knees, or maybe I want to focus on elbows and things like that. I think it's always important to look back on your fight. Like I rewatch my fights 4 or 5 times to see what things that I can improve on. So, okay, I got caught with that punch because my feet weren't in the correct position. I'm going to practice that, and I just drill it at the gym. And I think that's the only way you're going to get better. If you see this is what I've done in that sort of high stress situation, and now I'm in a controlled situation and I need to drill it to turn it into a habit.
Yeah.
And then when I get into the ring, it's a habit for me. It's easier for me. So that's how I approach. Well, that's how I go away from every fight. Win, lose or draw. it is what it is. You're going in there. There's a chance that you could lose. There's a chance you can win. It's very unpredictable. And I always like challenging myself. So this fight's definitely going to be a massive challenge for me. But at the same time, I want to show people what I can do. And, going away from every single fight, building on everything that I've done wrong, to be here and be able to show people what I can do is really important to me.
Yeah, I'm always interested to hear fighters such as yourself discuss how they go back and look at their fights. So it sounds like you do quite closely analyze your performances. Do you think it's important when you watch your fights that, like, I know something that we've worked on a lot is that when I would watch my fights, I would only see the negative things. Like, you look back and you just like, I did this and this. Do you think is it something you consider that, like, it's important to look at the fights and actually build upon what was positive rather than just, is that something that you consciously work on or like, what's your approach like there?
It's hard because if you look back on a fight, the first 2 or 3 times, you're automatically going to look at the negatives.
Yeah.
So if you go away with a loss, you're going to look at the negatives and be like, okay, I lost because of this, this, and this. You're not really going to go in and look at the positives unless you smash the person.
Yeah.
I always try to go in open-minded when I'm watching my fight. Sometimes I watch it by myself so I can analyze it myself, but then I try and watch it with other people and get their opinion as well, because, you're in the moment, they're sitting on the fence, they see things that you don't see. And I think it's really important that you kind of get other people's opinions, especially like people that you trust, you coach, trainers, things like that, and also like people that you train with closely. It's really important to get their feedback, because you might have seen something as bad, but then they could have said, well, no, actually that was quite good. You've just interpreted it as bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like I think sometimes film study is like an underrated tool for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I think more nowadays it's a bigger thing because like everyone's just got a phone in their hands.
Yeah.
You can have a look at it. The main thing is just don't look at the comments.
Yeah, don't read comments.
just cut them out.
Yeah.
So just changing tangents just a little bit from there. So like you're an exercise physiologist now.
Yeah.
I find that really extremely interesting to me. It's like all this, a couple of decades now, fucking strength coaching. Jesus, I feel like but like, do you use anything? What you have learned in exercise physiology to kind of drive any part of your training at all, or help you kind of make sure that you're staying in the best condition you can?
Yeah. So I at uni, because you go through all the strength and conditioning as well, you understand how you develop power, you've got power, you've got endurance, you've got strength, and being able to separate each of those is really important in the sport. And then also knowing, what things are going to translate into the sport. So, you could do squats, but then at the same time, if you're doing power squats, that's going to increase your power. So things like 4 seconds down, 1 second up. So that explosive movement. With our sport, we're not going all the way after grass, where we're only really going to 90. So there's no point going further down, things like that. So I've created my own strength and conditioning program with the knowledge that I have. And then I also know, okay, I understand how my body feels. I understand what load and like where I need to be so I'm able to peak in the correct time. So where I need to taper off with strength. And things like that. The training part I leave to Kieran, I leave to my coach to make sure that that's his area. He knows that. The strength and conditioning side, I feel really confident with that, to be able to understand my body. And I think it's also important when it comes to strength and conditioning that people listen to their body. Too many people will, they've done something to their back and they go in and they start doing heavy deadlifts and then they pull something.
Yeah.
And it's things like that. So it's really important to listen to your body. But at the same time, I know my limits. I know what I'm able to do and how to increase as well. So yeah, I create my own programs, running, strength and conditioning and things like that.
That's really interesting, actually. I didn't realize kind of like you self-programmed for your strength and conditioning. So you're obviously very knowledgeable on the sports science side of things, gaining a lot of experience in the ring. your plan beyond Muay Thai to kind of blend the two together and work on that with other fighters?
I do. I definitely want to help people with their strengths. That's something that I want to do further down the track. I think when I'm a bit older and I'm kind of retired from the sport, I do want to get into physio. So exercise physiology and physio are two separate degrees. So I definitely want to go back and do a master's of physio, so then I'm able to diagnose and also treat more acute injuries more than chronic conditions and things like that.
So you don't like sleeping, eh?
Pardon?
You don't like sleeping?
No, apparently I don't. I told people I'm so happy that uni's over, and then I'm like, I might go back for a master's, and I'm just like, what am I doing with myself?
I'll never see the inside of a university again.
Oh, it's scary walking down those hallways, and you're like, oh, I'm preparing myself for another 2 or 3 years.
We'll change gears slightly here. So we gained a lot of info kind of on your background, what's going on off to the side, but the task at hand next weekend. Tell me about Yolanda Schmidt. Tell me, what it's like to have Yolanda as an opponent. I'm sure you've seen her fight a lot in the past. Just talk us through how it all came together.
To be honest, I was on a bit of a tangent with fights. Either a lot of people were injured, people were away, COVID, things like that. I didn't feel like a lot of people wanted to fight me at one point. It was just really hard to find matches. And when Kieran said potentially Yolanda was an opponent, I was super excited. I've watched her fight multiple times. She's amazing. She's known around the world. And I knew, because there's a lot of things that I want to achieve in the sport. I want to get WBC belts. I want to be signed to one and things like that. Like, fighting the best is how I'm going to be getting there, and Yolanda's one of the best,
for sure,
regardless of if she's lighter than me or not. Her experience and it's going to be amazing. She's going to test me, and I'm super excited about that.
I guess when you first sort of when it first came up, Yolanda's on the cards. Was that a fight that you sort of thought was on your radar for the immediate future, or was it a bit of a surprise?
It was a bit of a surprise because I know Yolanda's smaller than, she fights lighter than me. I didn't really think Yolanda and I would have been a fight. And when Kieran told me it was, I was quite surprised, super nervous, especially with how much experience she's had. But, at training, I feel quite confident. I feel like regardless of training, I'm going to go in there and give it a crack and show people, what I can do regardless of who's in front of me.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, not that long ago, you were fighting with the headgear on shows that, Yolanda would be the main event on. So what does it feel like for you to get to that point where in the space of only a couple of years, you're now in that main event spot against someone of Yolanda's caliber? Like, what's that feeling like?
Oh, it's amazing. I'm stoked about it. The fact that, only a couple of years ago I had to wear elbow pads and headgear and all of that. And now, one of the greats I'm fighting, and I get to like be a main. I think I've always been excited about being the head of a fight or being like the main card. And the fact that like that's what it is, it's just kind of surreal. Like I still, it's next weekend, and I'm still almost coming to grips that, oh wow, I've made it.
Yeah.
I feel like I've worked my ass off, and now I can say, I've made it, and it's only going up from here.
Did you feel like having that on your mind, the idea that you will be fighting someone like Yolanda, just kind of naturally kicks you up a gear in training?
Oh, 100%. 100%. There was this drive in me that I've never experienced, and this is the hardest I've trained for any fight. Like, I always train hard and I always try to go 100%, but I don't know what it is, but I've just like, there's this extra energy, there's this extra drive. I want to continue doing more to the point where Kieran's like, okay, calm down, slow down, let's go sit down and stretch. And I'm like, oh, can I just hit the bag for a little? And he's like, no. And I'm like, okay. So yeah.
So have you given so you got Yolanda and you have another fight booked after Yolanda as well on the show, which unfortunately we couldn't get on.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. But like, it seems like at the moment, you're banking up these big fights going from there. Is there like have you kind of planned yourself this year that you're gonna achieve a certain goal?
I do want to get a WBC belt. That's one thing that I want. I do want it this year. But to be honest, I just want to get as many fights as possible. Last year was shit. I only had, I think, one or two fights, and I just want to get back into the ring. You know, you don't realize how much you miss it until you've been off for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's especially for yourself, like it's a hard weight division sometimes. Like you go feel like Yolanda's probably like just a little bit older area than yourself, still in a prime, of course. But like it's just like that transition. There was a transition period there with like it didn't seem that many fighters were kind of getting together and doing the fights that they should be doing.
Yeah.
But it seems now after COVID, I think it's been a little bit more kicking gear for everyone. Like, fuck, this could be taken away from us again.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do this, we got to do it now.
Yeah. There's so many fights coming up, and I think it's because people were cooped up with lockdowns. They weren't able to do anything. You know, when the gym closed and then when the gym opened, we saw so many people come through, and it's because everyone got sick and bored of being in their house. They wanted to do something, and you know that's the same with fights. So many people are like, "Oh, I won't miss it," and then 2 months later, they're like, "No, I want to get back into it. Like, I want to be in the ring again."
Oh, most definitely. Well, speaking about the WBC belt, I think in your division there's a Australian belt being contested soon. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Well,
That's
actually, no. I
Tiff's
think
fight.
Hardcore got cancelled. I'm not sure if.
Yeah, it might have done. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah.
As we were just talking, something taken away.
It's hard to keep up with now, hey?
Yeah, it is. I think it only got cancelled recently.
Yeah,
it was on Hardcore. Brittany Dolgai against Tiff Lamb.
Well, like, I imagine that would have been a fight that you would have been watching pretty closely in terms of going, I think, there is this, and if you rack up these next couple of wins, you go, hey, I should be taking the winner.
Yeah, it'd be. I definitely a rematch against Tiff is something that I definitely want. Brittany will be after this. So yeah, like I 100%. I've already told Kieran. I've just said, I want to fight Tiff again. Like it'll be a good fight. It'll be a crack of a fight. And I think we were going to last year, but with COVID, it was a bit too hard.
Well, I mean, it would kind of be. And honestly, we were talking about this ages ago. Like last Christmas or something. Like it would be. It's always funny when a fight like that happens and it's a draw because it just does seem like the logical step is to do it again. Like it's a fairly, it's not like really a definitive ending, but it's been kind of funny because the two of you, if I'm not mistaken, did fight on the same show shortly after that, right? Like when you fought Jacinta, I think Tiff fought Brittany, yeah, so that was interesting, like because you guys have kind of been sort of cross paths and without it's just whether it happens in a month or 6 months, it's gonna happen again. Like you guys are genuinely the two of the top girls out of the way. It's inevitable.
Yeah, like I know it's gonna happen, and she's a lovely girl. We talk and stuff like that, but I'm keen to get back in there and show people, what I can do. And, Tiff, she's very technical. And that's what I really like.
Yeah,
I've had fights where, so Jacinta, she was, go, go, go. It was going forward and I had to be a counter fighter. I couldn't be that technical. It was just almost like a brawl. And then with Tiff, I had the time. I was able to, be a bit more technical, land better kicks and things like that, evade things and stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you think, like you mentioned sort of one of your goals is, of course, the WBC belt. Like, do you think it would be sort of kind of fitting for that fight to be against Tiff? Like, would that sort of be kind of perfect arrangement for you?
I think so. I feel like Tiff and I are both, at the top of our weight category, and it'd be great to fight her again. I think we both made a name for ourselves, and a lot of people have said they want to watch us have a rematch. They want to see that again. So,
it was a great fight. It was a really good fight. Yeah.
It was really good. It was, I remember going into there because I had seen her fights and I saw how good she was, and I was like, nah, I'm going to give it a crack. Let's do this. Let's go.
Well, I guess that's kind of the same attitude you bring into this fight with Yolanda.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Situation.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's, she's got the experience, but at the same time, I know what I can do. And I'm just super excited for this one. I'm just excited to get back into it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited too.
Yeah.
I guess a question I always like to ask as well is, like you've come from like a bit of a layoff as we discussed, and now you're getting to a point where you've got a few fights booked in a row. What's it like to have a fight, say you've got this big fight against Yolanda coming up, and then you also know that only a few weeks later, sort of about a month even, later month, 5 weeks later, you've got another fight on the ticket. What's it like to kind of know? I guess, do you kind of just block the further fight out and you just think about the ones ahead? Do you have kind of more of a comprehensive, you're thinking about both at the same time? How does that kind of, how do you sort of process that?
I always think of the fight closest. So the fight against Yolanda will be first. Once that's done, then I start thinking about the other fights. It's very similar to any IFMA sort of events. If you've got 4 fights or 3 fights on a day, you're not focusing on the finals, you're focusing on the one in front of you. And that's how I always approach it, because that's the one that's closest. That's the one that all my attention should be on. Then after the fight, that's when I can start considering or thinking about other things.
And of course, like, a fighter of Yolanda's caliber requires your whole attention. You can't be looking up here at the same time.
Yeah.
Interesting that you mentioned kind of that tournament format, because you have gone overseas for a couple of tournaments, and I was interested to discuss that. So correct me if I'm wrong, I believe your gold medals were at the WMOs and the university games.
Yeah.
That's correct. Yeah. So I guess talk about, because you that parallel, that kind of tournament you use. So if you've got a bunch of fights, you just think about the one that's ahead. So do you think that tournament style of experience is something that you kind of carry over into the more professional format? Like, do you find that kind of helped you develop your mentality?
Yeah, 100%. But it was really hard because in my divisions, I only had one person in there. So I really only had to think about one person. But when I first fought in nationals, I wasn't thinking about the finals. I was thinking more about, so when I fought Lorna, I wasn't thinking about the person that was going through to the finals. I was thinking about Lorna and going through with that, because, that's the person that's in the way from you getting to the next level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, it's like tournament styles, like it becomes more like that. Everyone's fit for it.
Yeah.
It just becomes into a mindset type of thing. So you get fight out of the way, and then it just really just goes, all right, who fucking wants it more? Like, you get through it.
Yeah, you have to have with those sort of things, because like if you're fighting 3 times in one day, you have to have that mindset, because your body may fatigue towards the last fight, but at the same time, like if you've got that heart, if you've got that drive, you just keep going. Like, even I think it's really important to have heart in the sport and that drive, because if you're getting wailed on in the corner, you've got 2 options. You've got the option of stopping and dropping, or if you've got that heart and that drive, you keep going. And I think, a lot of tournament styles, you see that, they've got that aggression, but if they're getting wailed on, they've got 2 options, and you can see who has the heart and who doesn't.
Definitely. With that kind of experience as well, let's say if like a rebellion brought back the 8-man, but did the 8-woman instead. From there, how would you feel towards that? Would it be?
I would love to. I've always wanted to do tag team. I thought tag team would be awesome. But it's hard to find 2 girls that. So I think Paris and I wanted to do it against Taylor and Natalie from Strikeforce. I think that was an option. That would have been pretty cool, but I don't think it went through. But no, it would be. I always like challenging myself. That would have been really cool. And it's very different. Tag team is very different. The fact that it's not just one-on-one. There's 4 people in that tournament. It's
a whole new
cool.
strategy game to it.
Yeah, it is. And like you have to turn around and tag the other person and things like that. It's pretty cool. And I've always wanted to do like an 8-man or like a tournament sort of like that.
Has one ever kind of like a potential tournament ever come up? Is it ever something that was in the works, or?
I've never heard of anything like with my name in it. I've seen all of these tournaments and I thought, oh, that'd be awesome. Because, you know, you're really challenging yourself because after a fight, there's that adrenaline. You've got an adrenaline peak and then you've got that adrenaline dump. And it's really interesting to see how many times people can go up and then down throughout that night.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's spaced out, it's good, but at the same time, you can really see how far you push your body.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's speaking of like tag team opportunities, and I mean, you have a sister that's
what I was going to ask.
Make a name for herself in fighting as well. How's that dynamic? Like, is it just fighting in the Martin's blood? Is it?
I think so. When I first started, I got her into it, and then ever since then, we've just fallen in love with the sport, and we've just gone up. And you know, she's one of my training partners, so I push her just as much as she pushes me, and you know, we live together, so it's me banging on her door saying, get up at 6 a.m., let's go for a run, and that's vice versa. You know, it's really good having someone that has the same drive as you because, you know, when you feel unmotivated, they're there to help pick you up.
Yeah, it's she has a fight on Siam2Sydney. How does that feel like fighting on the same card as your sister?
Really good. I don't think she's fighting anymore. Her opponent has pulled out.
I wasn't sure if this was public.
Yeah. But I feel bad for her. She was training super hard, and you know, I have only ever fought on the same card once. And from experience, I will never be watching her fight before my fight again because I get too invested. Yeah.
Which card was on the same card? Was that
This was in Canberra.
In Canberra, okay.
In Canberra, yeah. Yeah. So I watched her fight, got too excited, went to the back and literally had an adrenaline dump. And I was like, oh, now I have to go again.
I guess in that sense, do you sort of prefer to fight on kind of – because I know you do a lot of the corner work, right? Like I believe you were in the corner when she fought Marina.
Yeah.
Is that kind of how you would prefer it? Like you're just there to support, or you don't mind the idea of being on the same card?
To be honest, I don't mind.
Okay, yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like I would like to be in a corner and support her. But if I fight of the same show, she does her own thing, I do my own thing. Like I know what she's capable of, and I know what I need to do for my fight. So it's not you know, you always want to go support your little sister. You always want to, you know, be there and cheer and things like that. But if you've got to fight on the same night, you need to put yourself first. And like she knows that. We both know that. So if she was fighting first, I wouldn't watch. But if I was fighting first, she wouldn't watch.
Yeah.
And then we just watch it back at a later date.
Yes, it sounds like you've got a plan, I guess.
Yeah.
As far as that, not just So that's interesting. So like you also mentioned you like she's your little sister. You kind of got her into it. I think you started to get a bit more. You've been ahead of her in kind of experience, but I also think she's kind of climbed up a level quite recently. Like she's sort of made that leap up in competition. I thought she was really impressive against Marina.
Yeah.
I thought that was.
She did really well against Marina.
Yeah, so I guess are we going to see a Martin sisters tag team?
Oh, that would be good, but she's too light.
Oh, is she?
She's way too light. So she fights around 50, 51. Yeah, I fight at 57. So that would be...
I forget they even have weigh-ins in Queensland. I kind of thought it was just like whatever.
They just go. They just pick two people and go.
If there's the weight difference is the same on the other side, like just find an opponent each. And then
just go from there.
Yeah, sorry, I was occupied on my phone business stuff. I should turn that off.
You're like, oh.
Sorry, I've got more questions.
Yeah, that's fine.
So is it like Moyu absolutely pumping it? It's honestly for the level that it is. Moyu's like a very young gym. Like it's of the gyms that routinely compete at the level that you guys do. Moyu would probably be the youngest one. I think. I can't think of another gym at that kind of main event status that's new. So that's as young as Moyu. So I guess tell us a little bit about how you do things at Moyu, how it differs from other places you train. And then if you will, just tell us a little bit. You got some very high level training partners. So tell us about sort of some of the people you work with, what you get out of training with them, and just give us a bit of the run through.
Yeah, so just the structure of how they train. So, you know, fighters train twice a day, depending on if they can get there or not. So in the morning and the night. You know, there are certain days where it's focused on clinching, focused on pad work, partner work, and things like that. And, you know, Kieran's done a really good job of tailoring it to everyone and focusing on weaknesses. And it's not, so, you know, on pads, he might go around and say, you need to do this, this, or this. So it's not just everyone doing the same thing. It's not, you have to do this combo. It's freestyling pads, you know, okay, you have to kick that person more because they need to check and do stuff after and things like that. And that's what I really like. You know, some of the other gyms, some of the fighters classes that I went to, you know, I didn't feel like I was pushed as much as I wanted to be. But definitely at Moyu, I feel like, you know, I'm being pushed, especially with the people around me. So, you know, I've got Davey, I've got Josh, I've got Dan, I've got Paris, I've got Davina. Those sort of people are constantly pushing me. And, you know, it's really good. You know, Josh is roughly similar weight as me, so it's really good to be able to go hard with him. But at the same time, having to work really hard with bigger boys, so like Dan Marshall and Davey as well. Those two, you know, you can't outmuscle them. You have to think of your technique to be able to, especially in clinching. Like, you can't just try and like hold on for dear life with them. Like, they're just going to break you, so you need to figure other things out. And, you know, that really helps. In all of them are so technically good. That includes Davina, like all technically good. And you have to bring your A game sometimes when you come to sparring. Like, it's not like you can have an off day because you get beaten up.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just sit back. Like, they'll just beat you up. They don't care if you've had a shit day. And that's, you know, that's the same as them. And I think that's what makes you better, to be honest.
Absolutely. And would you describe, so you've got like we said, you mentioned a lot of them got a lot of fighters fighting at a very high level across Australia and internationally. Would you describe Moyu as having a style, or do you think you all kind of bring different things to the table? Like, how would you say you fit in there?
I think we all bring something different to the table, and that's what makes the gym so good. You know, you've got people like Davina and Josh that are very go forward. They're not really like waiting back and things like that. But then you've got Dan and Davey that are very counter fighters and people that will kind of like sit back and wait for you to make a mistake before they capitalize on it. And I think that's good, because if everyone's doing the exact same thing, and then so if you've got everyone that is a counter fighter, you know, you'll know, okay, if I throw this, you're going to wait until I make a mistake. And it's just going to be that cycle. But then when you fight someone that's an aggressor, you just get blown away because they're not that technical or like slowed down, things like that. So I like how diverse it is. You know, you've got a cap for Davey, you've got a cap for Josh, for Davina and Dan and things like that, because they're all different. And, you know, that's the same with the height as well.
Yeah.
If you're sparring people like Davina's partner Travis, he's like up here. It's hard to spar him, and then you go to the next level. You've got Davina who's down here, and it's you know, oh, okay, this is actually a kick, not a knee, sort of thing. Yeah.
And of course, like, you know, you guys have so many different, like you said, different styles, but also different sizes. And you're quite a busy gym. The place is always packed. You got a pretty big fight team now. I guess like you have the best possible spread. Like, the more differences you have across people, would you say the more likely you have someone that can help you get ready for a particular opponent? Because if everyone has the same style, then you'll get very good at fighting people with that style. But if you fight someone who's distinctively different, then you probably won't have, you know, those formed habits to deal with that kind of stuff.
I think that's really good as well, with like reaction times as well. Especially with newer people. You know, you're more likely to get hurt sparring a newer person than you are someone who is, you know, technically better, because they throw wacky stuff, you know. And that also helps with your reaction time, because you don't know what they're going to throw. You know, they might not have a conventional kick or something like that, and that's where you need to, you know, adjust and put on a different cap kind of thing.
And I notice a lot, like, I think Moyu as a gym has a really good culture. Like, you have a very supportive team. Like, I like going there to train because, you know, you're all cool. But what, I guess, do you think someone has to bring to the table to be a good teammate in a fight team?
I just think no ego. That's the main thing. You know, if you're coming into a gym and you're trying to bring ego, you're going to get slapped down very fast. You know, you're not going to fit in with the culture, because everyone there, we don't have ego. Like, yeah, like I've made a name for myself and I'm up here, but the way I communicate to someone else is not going to be like, I'm up here, you're down here. That's just, you know, and I think that's what is amazing about Moyu, is because there are no egos. You know, everyone is treated the exact same way. And that's a big thing. That's a big thing.
It's when I ask you a question, like personally as a coach, because I'm always trying to learn stuff. Yeah, what's some considerations coaches should make when they're got a lot of females teams or training females itself?
Yeah,
which is probably we haven't had in our gym. But like, what do you reckon coaches should know when they're like, you know, have got female athletes, and like, how should they approach it best way?
I think like for females, like a lot of females know weight cutting is horrendous because of, you know, hormones, body fat percentages and things like that. So a female may come off very bitchy, but they may be on their period sort of thing. And it's really hard, because I've been through weight cuts where I couldn't drop weight because I was stressed and things like that. My body was like, nah, you know, you need to relax, then we'll let some things off. But I guess it's just being considerate. You know, if they're going through, you know, their time of the month, they're going to have cramps, they don't want to be teeped there and things like that. Just being considerate about that. And if they get angry, don't take it to heart. You know, they get hangry very fast, and I am hands down probably one of the worst for it. But you know, don't take it to heart. That's the main thing I would say with a lot of females. You know, just communicate. You know, you are being a bit rude. Are you okay? And they're just like, oh, sorry, time of the month or something like that, or, you know, I'm not feeling the best. Then it's kind of like you've opened it up. You've said, okay, I've taken this as rude. They're just like, I'm really sorry. And then you're back to normal.
And like, when there is like a group of females like training from there, do you find it's like, or as a coach, you have like almost like a team leader? There's like that, the lady at the top there, like then you might do as the gym mother from there, with like, you know, at least the girls can like confer to like another female. It's like, you know, the trainer won't understand all the time what the females like going through. So it's always good to have someone to support you for that.
It is really good. I've noticed because all of my PTs are usually with females, unless they're, you know, kids with boys, like little boys sort of thing. But you know, it's good to talk to them about that and explain to them. Like a lot of the female fighters ask me, you know, oh, I don't have enough energy, or I don't, you know, I'm not dropping weight and things like that. And I always just explain to them, you know, are you stressed? Like, are you sleeping well? All of these different things. And, you know, like they'll come to you with really personal questions that they wouldn't speak to a male about. And I think it's really important to, you know, not only just have like a head male coach, but also a head female coach, because, you know, it's the same like in any clinic. Females may prefer seeing females and males may prefer seeing males, things like that. And they may feel more comfortable opening up in that sense. So I really like the fact that I can help a lot of the females at Moyu, and they feel comfortable as well talking to me about it.
Nice. Cool. Any more questions, man?
Yeah, I'm interested too, because we've touched on a couple of times. You know, you have quite a clear set of goals, right? You've talked about getting to one championship, WBC titles. I'm always interested to hear, do you have like kind of a formal process of kind of how you set goals for yourself? Do you have things arranged sort of short, medium and long term? Like what's that process like? Or do you just have more of an overarching idea of where you want to go?
It's kind of more of an overarching, like where I want to go. It's not, it's really hard to make short and long-term goals in the sport, because, you know, short-term goals will always be whoever you're fighting. Long-term goals, I think it just depends. Like, you have to get noticed. And if you're not noticed, you're not going to get those sort of belts or go in that sort of direction. And it's, I always struggle to make goals. You know, every fight camp, I'm like, oh, okay, this is what I want to focus on, and I'll focus on it, but it's not really a goal for me.
Yeah. And do you think as well, when it comes to goal setting in a sport, like Muay Thai is a mean sport. Like it's very difficult to kind of like, for example, whatever goals you had in 2020, fuck those goals. What are you going to do, right? Like,
they do not exist anymore. Yeah.
So do you think it's also difficult, not impossible maybe, but difficult to have certain goals? And because I think like when it comes to goal setting, it can be quite like you can get quite fixated. So I might say that again. When you're fighting a certain opponent, you can be like, my goal is to do this and this, and you'll kind of drive towards those. But if your opponent changes at the last minute, it kind of makes those goals redundant, and then you've got that little bit of gross feeling of like, if you set out a goal and you don't achieve it, it doesn't feel very good. That's just kind of how we're wired. But the situation can change in Muay Thai so much that goal is now not realistic, or the goal has to constantly shift, where it can be difficult to kind of adhere to a list. Like, do you think that's kind of something that you have to be flexible with your goals?
Yeah, you 100% have to be flexible. You can have a fight on 2 weeks' notice. You can have a fight pull out like Davina in a week's notice.
Yeah,
things like that. Like it's you have to be flexible in the sport, and you have to be willing to change. You can't in this sport. You can't remain the same. You constantly have to develop and change, because if you remain the same, there will be a tactic to be able to win. And if you can show diversity, and if you can show that you're changing and developing, then it's going to be harder for someone to win against you. That's the way I see it. If you're going to stay the same, it's easier to beat you.
Yeah.
Have you set yourself like a timeline in terms of like how long you're going to be competitively in the sport?
To be honest, I probably am going to keep fighting until 35, 40. I don't know what will happen. I'll probably just keep fighting until I want to have kids. That's me. Yeah. The kids, I'll be like, oh, I better stop. I better look after them.
Yeah, I need to pay that little guy some attention or something.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, keep going
the lollipop's not helping. I better just go pat him on the head or something.
They pretty much raising themselves these days.
Kids are getting smart. It'll be fine. So like I'll just put a cot in the gym. It'll be fine.
It's constantly just playing one championship fights.
Just constantly. So that's what they're used to. It's great.
Awesome. All right, so we're coming up to an hour here. I think we'll just leave it there from that one.
Yep.
It's always like, well, thank you for coming, Andra.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
That's all good. So where can people find you, like Instagram wise, like that, and also like obviously you're fighting next week, so stream for that also. Yeah.
So I have Instagram. I also have Facebook, but I really only use Facebook for like close friends. So it's just mainly Instagram, and then just the live stream. So I'm pretty sure all of the tickets for Siam is sold out. So there's no tickets that you can get. It's just the live stream.
And it's a fight that you definitely have to tune in for.
Yeah, you got to see this.
Yeah, you just have to tune in and see what happens.
Diandra in the ring, me on the microphone. I cannot think what else you could possibly want.
Yeah, on a Saturday night, of course, that's what you want.
Exactly. What else are you gonna do? All right, cool. So appreciate you again for being on, Diandra. We're just gonna do the outro, and if you can stick around a little bit after that, that'd be awesome. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So everyone else, remember to like, subscribe, share our shit. You love us, don't you? Show the love back. All right. We'll catch you next time.
See ya.
Bye.